Welcome back, everyone, to the Dragon's Lair. My name is Wade, and this is my show, Let's Talk. We're talking about Warhammer 40k. Once again, we are talking about the Tyranids, one of my favorite all-time armies. I also love Necrons, and I have been an Imperial Guard player for over 10 years. Today we're talking about Zoanthropes, so we're still in the Elite section. Go ahead and look at the playlist that this is a part of. I have walk rants, fly rants, Neurthropes in there, and I'm basically going through and making a video for everything that I play, and then everything that I'm interested in playing in the future. I have some things that I don't currently use that I might try using. So we're talking about Zoanthropes. I love Zoanthropes, and a lot of people hate Zoanthropes. Let's get into why. So Zoanthropes are great because you get 3 of them in a starting unit. You can go up to 6, and going up to 6 is a smart idea sometimes. Maybe going up to 5. Let me tell you why. So movement of 6 is cool because they fly. So usually first turn my Zoanthropes, they advance. Usually, because you're not really in range for Smite yet, and Smite is kind of where they shine. So I would keep that in mind when you deploy. Obviously, you don't want to get them shot if you don't have turn 1. But it's also their Psychic Imperative that is very important, because their Psychic Imperative gives a +4 invulnerable save to everything that's a Synops unit, and then it gives a +5 to everything that's not. So remember, at the beginning of a battle round, not a battle turn, not your turn or your opponent's turn, at the beginning of a round, you have to declare your Psychic Imperative. It lasts for the whole round. I declare Zoanthropes if I don't have turn 1, or if I'm worried about not having turn 1. So that way everything that is Synops has a 4+ invulnerable, and everything that's in Synops has a 5. That really helps against shooting. Of course, I usually deploy so I don't get shot a lot anyways. Pretty standard, really. Anyways, so 5+ weapon skill, nobody cares. 3+ ballistic skill, nobody cares. Strength 5. Strength 5, no one cares. Tough 5. Now that got better in the Codex when the Codex dropped like 8 months ago or whatever. It's definitely helpful. For wounds, that got better when the Codex dropped. 2 attacks, nobody cares. Leadership 9, it's a Synops creature, so nobody cares. And Strength 5, which is trash, but you don't need it. Okay, so why don't you need it, Wade? Well, because of the Warp Field, which gives you a 4+ invulnerable. 4+ invulnerable, in my opinion, is usually enough to get the job done. Usually. Tough 5 is great. 4 wounds apiece is great. They're a tough model. They're very tough. So going into abilities, notice there's no weapons, there's no war gear options, there's none of that stuff, because they don't need it. So we've already talked about Warp Field, Synops. So remember, Synops is a 6-inch bubble around every Synops creature, that if your other creatures are inside of that bubble, they don't need to take leadership tests. They're just like, leadership, what's that? I don't care. Shadow on the Warp. Shadow of the Warp is an 18-inch bubble that any opponent psychers inside of that, they get a -1 to all of their psychic tests. And if they fail psychic test and would take a Shadows of the Warp, they take 1 additional mortal wound. So I think it's usually like D3 mortal wounds, so they take D3 + 1. It's gonna come in handy someday. Someday. I haven't had it really come in handy yet. Cybrood, if your army is Battleforged, then for each detachment includes High Fleet Neurthrope units. This one High Fleet Zoanthrope unit can be included in that detachment without taking up a battlefield role. So basically, if you only have 2 elite slots, like in a patrol, I'm not 100% memorized with Arcs of Omen yet. But anyways, if you only had 2 elite slots in a patrol, you could then fill those with other things and still take a unit of Zoanthropes, because it doesn't fill up a battlefield role slot. Alright, let's get into where they shine. Warp Blast. Each time this unit attempts to manifest Smite or a Witchfire Psychic Power, add 1 to the Psychic test for each model in this unit. Alright, see how there's a period there? I always forget that there's a period there. So let's just talk about the period. Okay. What this means is if you have a unit of 3 Zoanthropes, when you go to test, you're going to roll your 2d6 and you're going to add 3. Okay, if you have a unit of 5, you're adding 5. If you have a unit of 6, you're adding 6. And I didn't know that until somebody in one of the Facebook groups was talking about it, and I learned something. That's pretty great because that gets you into Super Smite very quickly. Then after the period, each time this unit manifests the Smite psychic power, add 1 to the number of mortal wounds suffered by the enemy unit for each model in this unit to a maximum of 3. Okay, that's pretty great because when you Super Smite, you're then d6 plus 3. If you roll a 5, dropping 8 mortal wounds on something is great. If you roll a 6, dropping 9 mortal wounds. If you roll a 4, 7 mortal wounds, it's great. It's great. The big reason to have the unit of 4, 5, or 6 is just to make the Super Smite easier and to keep the plus 3 damage going longer. Also, I would contend a unit of 4, 5, or 6 is great bodyguards for Neurothrope. I always bodyguard mine with at least 1 unit of 3. A lot of times what happens is my Neurothrope is in the center, one group of Zoanthropes is on the left, and one group of Zoanthropes is on the right, and then that way they kind of, as a wall, they can kind of wheel the battlefield to see where the damage is needed. Also, I play my Zoanthropes and Neurothrope mid-ground with my Walkrant, so they can handle the inevitability of somebody deploying in the backfield. So they can do a little bit of area denial with the deployment of that person in the backfield. Also, when they deploy in the backfield, I can then drop, 8, 9 mortal wounds on them and evaporate them. Plus, the Walkrant just turns around with the Shard Gullet and chug, 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 guns them down. Or then charges them, and then they regret their lives. Yeah, that's how I feel about that. So those are all great uses for your for your Zoanthropes. Psyker. This unit can attempt to manifest 1 psychic power in your psychic phase and attempt to deny 1 psychic power in your opponent's psychic phase. That's great. Remember the deny. It knows Smite and 1 psychic power from the Hive Mind Discipline. I'm not going to lie. I like to double up my Catalyst and my Onslaught. Usually I do it in my Neurothrope. So, I don't know. I think Catalyst is probably the best because somewhere around turn 3 or turn 4, your Tyrants might be pretty hurt. And like I said, I like to double it up to keep the Catalyst going. But I often double it up inside my Neurothrope. Anyways. There are some psychic powers like the Parasite that is only really good against like, T3s. So, but talking about stratagems. Well, actually, I'm looking at the keywords for a second. Remember that they're core. Remember that they fly. Those are all good things to remember there. But talking about stratagems, Power of the Hive Mind being able to manifest 1 more time, depending on your psychic powers, is pretty great. Rapid regeneration. Because this is a unit that's so tough. Tough 5, 4 wounds, 4+ invulnerable save. Keep in mind that you can regenerate a model. So if you had a Zoanthrope that was down to 1 wound, there's 5 other Zoanthropes, 1 Zoanthrope down to 1 wound, your opponent's like, oh, I'm finally making headway, and you rapid regenerate that guy, and you had 3 back, and he's back up to full. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good. Especially if they're bodyguarding your Zoanthrope, or sorry, your Neurothrope. So, Power of the Hive Mind, Rapid Regeneration, those are all good uses of a stratagem there. And keep in mind, Warp Tendrils from the Neurothrope to get 3d6 and remove 1 of the d6s. You're going to Super Smite. You're going to Super Smite all over the place. Anyways, I had a lot of fun with Zoanthropes. I love them a lot. We here at the Dragon's Lair understand that you are a very busy person. You probably have relationships and maybe even kids, jobs and pets and hobbies and friends and school and all that stuff. So we want to say thank you for spending your time here with us at the Dragon's Lair.